Well, good morning. Welcome to today's discussion. Efficient hiring, maximizing talent acquisition for small businesses on a budget. And the first thing I always want to point out here is, this is a presentation, of course, but it's important to me that the audience know that I live these principles. So this is not just something that I'm recommending or saying, hey, this is something I read about or I came up with. Especially for the last 2 years, these are the concepts that I put into place to make my recruiting efforts, as part of my day job, as I call it, more effective. So that's what we'll be talking about today. So the key first question is, how many of you feel like recruiting is just too complicated, time-consuming, and costly for the return you receive? And if everybody says no, then I'll stop there and the presentation's done. So thankfully, everybody agreed. So we'll continue with the presentation. And again, keep in mind, you're not alone. Most of the people I talk to, you read articles, which obviously I do a lot of reading on the topic of recruiting and talent acquisition and so on. This is what I hear. It takes too much time. Oh my gosh, I could get software, but then I've got to be able to navigate that and so on and so forth. So that's the most common question that I hear. That and, oh, I can't find talent. I can't find the talent to fill the jobs. So that's also what we're going to talk about today. So this is who I am, in case you didn't know. Kyle Patrick Smith, Director of Human Resources for Kent Displays. I always call that my day job. And I've been in human resources now for 25 years. I'm also proud to say that for most of those 25 years, it was in talent acquisition one way or another. In fact, I grew up in talent acquisition. It's kind of cool to think about it now, but when I started, it was on the front end of online recruiting. And in fact, I wrote, literally, the manual for my company at that point that I was working for on how we were going to recruit online, because that was when Monster was becoming popular and companies were adding a career services page or section to their website. And I was part of that for the employer that I worked with at the time. One, some of you probably heard of, named Roadway. We're a trucking company, pretty prominent in the Akron area for a number of years. And that's where I got my start, and that's where a lot of this has grown from. As part of that, I've expanded my horizons, I guess you could say, for lack of a better term, to start my own business. I started that February 1st. In that effort, I've started to publish some books. There's one back there that will expand upon the principles that I talk about today. I've got another one coming out this week called Get the Job You Love. That's more intended for job seekers or someone just trying to navigate the career journey. So I've got that coming out later this week. I'll make sure I post on LinkedIn so we'll all know about it. Speaking engagements, of course, got quite a few things actually coming up over the next couple months. And this was one that I was really looking forward to for a couple of reasons. One, it's close to home, meaning I know all of you. I've met with many of you, and we've been able to build a little bit of a relationship. Certainly this is a topic that's important to me, and I love the location because, and Tiffany knows this, I've made no secret that I'm a big supporter of the efforts of Port HDD and what you do here and what you represent. And that's important to me too. So having these kind of events here also draws a spotlight to your efforts. Beyond that, if you looked online, you'll see my podcast, a weekly podcast that talks about topics related to navigating the work world, as I call it, and following that journey. And I've got some social media platforms that I'm publishing more tips to than anything. YouTube's a channel that I've started to expand upon a little bit more. You'll see more job searching tips out there, typically in 1 to 2 minute videos, and to get the information out there. If you're interested in my efforts in my second job, HR Kyle, there's my website. Now the talk that I'm going to give today is based around the principles that are in my book, which again are back here at the back table. Recruiting is easy. And it's so funny the reaction I got when I first published this, like, come on, why are you saying that? I mean, some people were offended by it, like, come on, let me give you a better idea for the title. I'm like, no, that's the crux of this, that it can be easy. Now you're going to have to put some effort into it. And that's what we're going to talk about today. Is about an employment brand. And one thing that I tell all employers, remember, you have an employment brand, whether you realize it or not, whether you push it or not, whether you do anything with it or not, you have one. And it's going to fall into one of three categories: good, bad, or indifferent. And where I like to be is in the good, and that's part of what we're going to talk about. Here's the other thing that I think we're losing sight of. And I mentioned I've been in this recruiting realm for 25 years now. So I've seen the technology. I know what it can do. I'm an advocate for technology, especially in recruiting, because there's a lot of moving parts to this. But I think where we're getting and what we're starting to see is we're losing sight that recruiting is ultimately about people. And it's about relationships and connecting with people. It's not having a job, fill the job. It's not about that. It's about having an opportunity and finding the right person. So with that, there's a critical hidden message in all this. Recruiting is not transactional. And what I notice is, and this is a big pitfall that I see with a lot of companies, is they view it as transactional. I've got this position open, let me put a posting out, I'll get people in and I'll fill that role. That's a transaction. You have something, I want to buy it, I give you money, I have it. But that's not recruiting. That's why organizations struggle, because you're at the mercy of the market at that point. It's like saying, okay, there's this thing that I really need tonight that's so important. Oh God, I hope Walmart has it, because that's the only place I'm going to. You knew, and maybe you're making a meal, a nice meal for that evening. You knew 2 weeks ago you were going to make that meal, or a week ago. You've been thinking about it. But you waited till the day of, and you threw caution to the wind. It was a critical ingredient. The whole meal falls apart and you don't get that one. I just think that's the wrong way to go about making a nice dinner, and I think it's the wrong way to go about recruiting. So why are these principles important? Because ultimately, in case you haven't noticed, I believe they're at the heart of efficient hiring. Again, that's what we're talking about today. We're talking about being more efficient. And that's going to be the big theme that's going to run through this as well. So here's one other key point for this group. Recruiting doesn't have to be costly. Everything I'm going to talk to you about today costs this, nothing. I took a budget when I joined this last organization. They were spending somewhere about $50,000 a year or more for hiring. And I've taken it down to a couple $100 a year. And we're doing more hiring than we ever did, and I can assure you we're getting better candidates. Time consuming. Oh my gosh, it's so time consuming. It is. It's time consuming when you're getting ready to make that meal and the key ingredients, you got to drive out right then and do it. That's time consuming. And fruitless. Again, when it's transactional and you're just filling those transactions, it becomes fruitless because there's really nothing to show for it. It's hey, I had a role, I filled it. Okay, great. Did you get the best candidate? Did you spread the word? Does everybody know about it? To me, that's fruitless if they didn't. So where do you start? One, every job has to have a job description. And yes, that's going to take some time. But you know where you focus on your most important jobs. And I think if I looked around the room and I said, name to me 3 or even 2 jobs that you hire on a regular basis and are the most important, every one of you could give me those 2, probably just like that. So those are the ones you start with. Those are the priority. And then you work from there. You want to answer the question too, why would someone want to work here? What's unique about your organization? And I can assure you, when I think about the organization I work for now, Kent Displays, I can have a nice conversation about what's unique. And I hope if we sat at a career fair and you've been next to me, you see me do that. I can do it. I can make it exciting. I can get anybody up to that table and get them excited about what we have to offer. Because I know who we are as an employer. I know what we have to offer. Compared to other similar options. So there what I'm talking about is, in our world, it's manufacturing, so we're a manufacturer, we're also in technology. So that's who I'm competing with. So I'm looking at all our shortfalls. So, I'm competing with the same talent of a Goodyear and some of the other bigger companies. Well, I know where our strengths are and I know where our weaknesses are, so I can answer that. So someone says, talk to me about a career path at your company. Well, what Goodyear is going to say is, okay, you're going to start out at this role, you're going to move up to a senior role, you're going to do this, and so on. I can't say that. We got 65 employees. But here's what I can tell them. You're going to start here, but let me tell you a story. I just hired a young man. This is a true story. I just hired a young man last year. This is a great story to emphasize my point on some of the other things I'm going to talk about. obviously, as many of you know, if we work together, I make a lot of connections. That's important to me, to network and make those connections. Well, one of my connections had a younger brother who he said, gosh, my younger brother's smart, he's driven, he's a good kid, but he just can't find his way. He's with this employer now, he's been there 2 years, nothing's really happening, they're not really investing in him, so on and so forth. That's prime for me. When I hear that, it's like, wow, you've just set this up on a silver platter for me. So I have a principle that when someone refers me to a candidate or refers me to an individual, I talk to everybody. I don't care if I have a job open, I'm gonna talk to him. So I talked to this young man, and we get to know each other a little bit, and I'm impressed too. So he's one of those that I file in my back pocket. And believe me, the back pocket's big at this point. So a couple of weeks later, one of the ladies in our warehouse has to have some surgery, thank God, not workers' comp, just surgery. But she's gonna be out for 12 weeks. Guess who's the first person I called? That young man that I was impressed with. And here's what I told him. I said, I can't make you any promises. This is 12 weeks. After that, we may not ever know each other again. You may go on your way or whatever. But I said, we have a history here. And I said, I can promise you that if something else opens up, I'm going to consider you because this is your chance to show who you are. I know your brother and I trust him and I've been impressed with you so far. So in some ways, it's a work preview. Well, guess what happened when the 12 weeks were done? We kept him on in the warehouse. So we start out in February, person comes back, when was that? About May, employee comes back, he stays on. Well, what do you know, in about October, we need someone as a technical services representative. Keeping in mind, this gentleman, this young man, had a history of technical skills and so on. He'd taken some classes and so on. Well, guess who got that role? Guess who got a pay increase? Guess who got a small little office that he could work in? This young man. Thrilled to have that. So already he's increased his pay by like 30%. Okay, that's a nice boost in short than a year. So he worked in that job for a while, and oh gosh, when was it? He started reaching out to me, and this is the key too about having these connections and having these open lines of communication, which again, it's about people. So he reached out to me, gosh, what is it now, May? He reached out to me in March. He said, you know what, I appreciate this opportunity. I love this company, but I'm more of an introvert. I love talking about the technology, but it's hard for me to be on the phone all day talking to customers. And I told him, I said, I said, be patient with me. You know how things happen here. Things can open, there might be an opportunity. I'm also going to float your resume around the building to see if somebody might have a project they're working on or something where we could use you. Well, as of Monday, he is now working in our manufacturing as a roll-to-roll machine operator. And if you know what we do, make those displays, right? To make the displays, we use a roll-to-roll machine. So it's a roll of film, it's a roll of film, and in between that, we interject the liquid crystal, cold. So now he's working in manufacturing, and by the way, in our environment, that is another raise for him. So in the course of just a little bit over a year, he's had a full-time job, he's been with us over a year, and his pay has increased by, gosh, 40% or better. And he's well on his way to advancing himself in our company because he's already gotten what I would consider 2 promotions. Well, basically 3 promotions in a short period of time. So little bit of a long story there, but you gotta be able to tell those stories because again, this is about people and your candidates want to hear those stories because stories are something that resonate with them. But that's how I answer how we're unique. Goodyear could probably tell that story. Maybe they could, but what they're hitting on is just the basic things. So that's how I can outsell Goodyear every day of the week, because I know the differences and I know the advantages we have. So you want to answer the question too, why would someone not want to work here? And again, not to make this negative, but honestly, if you're going to connect with candidates, you got to know the reasons why they don't. Well, why don't they want to work for you? Maybe it's the hours. I mentioned that manufacturing job. One of the downsides of that is you're on a team and it's teams of 4 and there's 3 different teams and they rotate through the schedule. So they'll spend 3 months on first shift, 3 months on second shift, 3 months on third shift. Some people can't do that. Some people don't want to do that. So I know that's a downside of that job. So I get that out in the open right off the bat, but not until I've already got them convinced that we're a great place to work. Because even in that case, I'm gonna find one way again. And I'm gonna know they can't work in that job if there's other places they can work, okay? So again, here's what we're forming here. And what we're forming is,
there we go.
Number 2 and number 3 on that list are your employment brand. That's a big component of your employment brand. Why does someone want to work here? Why does someone not want to work here? Because that's what people are ultimately thinking when they're thinking of your respective company. Why would I want to work there? Why don't I? And there's a whole myriad of other reasons that we could get into. Maybe it's because it's a community service, what you do. You guys can relate to that. You do great work for the community. You're giving back. You're having an impact. The work you do, God, think about the impact that you and your office is having over this whole community, the impact that you can have on such a granular level. So those are the good reasons. But there's some bad, I'm sure, in your job. There's probably long hours, there's traveling, there's a big territory that you're covering and so on. So that's bad, but that's your employment brand. So where do you start? Let's keep talking about this. Create job flyers for your ads. Use those number 2 and number 3 points. Because remember, this is all sales and marketing. We're selling and we're marketing our jobs and our organizations. Whether we like it or not, that's exactly what we're doing. Because we've got a candidate or a potential candidate who's our customer. And we're competing against all these others. So if you're Walmart and you got, Tom said Kmart, they're not around, they couldn't compete, right? But we've got Target, we've got Meijer, we've got all those, so those are the competitors. So you're out there as the Walmart or whoever it is, and you're trying to compete with these customers. And you're finding reasons why they would shop with you and why they wouldn't. But you're selling them on it. You post all your jobs to Indeed. By the way, don't sponsor these jobs. You have to pay the sponsor. Don't do that. I haven't sponsored a job on Indeed in years. Post it as the free option. You're going to get exposure. They'll say you'll get more exposure, you probably do, but does it really matter if you get 50 candidates or 20? We're all out on social media. I'm a big advocate for Facebook postings. Not just because it's for your jobs, but it can create the image of your company. And I love it when I talk to people, and I talk to them all the time, literally daily, at least one person. I love your postings. It helps me learn about your company and who you are. Because you know what? I'm selling our company. Look at all the great things we're doing here. And I have these guys out, and I take pictures, and I post it out there too. Because you're a recruiting partner. Free local options, there are always those. Chamber, I'm sure, has job postings and so on, or where you're located. There's always going to be some local options that you can post for free. The other thing that I think we forget sometimes is put a sign up at your business. Your customers, they're coming in, obviously they like you. They've already got a kind of a preview of the job, what I would call a job preview, because they know what it looks like there. They've already made that connection. They may get to know you as they're stopping by. So it's comfortable for them. It's easy then for them to imagine themselves in the job. So take advantage of that. Same would hold true with the website, which I have on there as well. If they're visiting your website, they're already engaged with you. You're getting past a lot of the hurdles, so to speak, that you would normally have to jump over in a job search process. You can tell them about your company, what's it like. They already know these things because they're already engaging. Attend local events, job fairs and career fairs. I'm big on those. There are very few that I will miss, especially if they don't cost anything. It's unusual that I would. Community events is another thing. Maybe it has nothing to do with jobs, but maybe you got a table that you set up out there so people, again, can get to know your business, who you are, what you're about, get to meet you a little bit, see who you are, because they're making that connection. Here's some more community involvement and connection. Volunteer opportunities. Okay. There's so many organizations, and again, I know this room knows this, that are begging for volunteers, begging for people to help out because they need volunteers. Take advantage of those opportunities. That's a way to network, it's a way to connect. It portrays your business in a very positive light as well. There are very few candidates that I talk to now that don't express some interest or at least curiosity about what we're doing in our community and how we're giving back and how we're doing these things. And honestly, I especially see it from this under 30 crowd. They're especially interested in it. They want to know these things. So by seeing you there, again, this is a big one for me. You got to walk the walk. You can say you're doing all these things, but if they don't see you at these events, then you're not doing what you say you're doing. Portage County Board of DD. Tiffany, I got to make sure I have that on there. You're one of our key partners. Tiffany is always so happy and willing to share candidates that she thinks will be a good fit for us. And I don't have to ask her because we're trying to help each other out. My need is to get people for the open roles. Her need is to get people working, getting them out there and being productive and feeling good about themselves. That's easy. She didn't charge me anything to do that. We're happy to work together. It's just, it works out well for both of us. So my wife's here, jobs for Ohio's graduates. That's another one. I just had, actually I keep reading her name. Gina, just had Gina out, who's the, I guess, community representative, for lack of a better term, to get to know who we are. And Tiffany did this too, toured our facility, see who we are, what the jobs look like here, right? Patricia, you're on there, you better be. Are you on there? Did I forget you? Okay, yeah. Yeah, there it is. You were, wow, you're second, nice. So Patricia's come out. She's a partner of ours. I can send her our job posting. Guess what? She loves sending candidates over. I've never had her say, or Tiffany, either one say, oh, please quit sharing your jobs. You know, we don't want to be dealing with that. They've never, and guess what? They're never going to say that. They're not going to say that to any employer who reaches out. Cost for that? No. So, and these are very employable individuals. Just because you don't know that these services are out or these agencies are out there doesn't mean they're a great option. They are. I can speak personally for that. Power is relatively a new program for Portage County. Basically, it's based around the concept of second chance. So these are individuals that were incarcerated for some period of time that are looking for a second chance. My company, Kent Displays, that's something that I've really carried the torch on that one as well. And I can proudly say, and I love to tell stories, we have a gentleman who was paroled for a felony in December. And I'll tell you that story, how that works too. This is the whole concept of people again. So he reached out to me because, again, he'd heard of us, and I do a lot of networking. And he just said, hey, if you ever have a job open, I'm interested. You know me, hey, come on in, let's talk. I said, all we're gonna do is talk today. I don't have anything open, but I want to get to know you a little bit more. So this young man came in, and he was very forthright with his story. He was also very forthright with what he had done to make things right, improve his life. So I told him, hey, you know what, come back in again, just so we can get a chance to know you a little bit better. So he comes back in, he meets with myself and my manager of HR. Again, informal conversation. We leave that just thoroughly impressed with this young man. He comes in, he's very open, honest about his mistakes, the things he's done wrong, and even more important, he has a portfolio of all the things that he did while he was incarcerated for the last 3 years to make this situation right, to improve his lot in life. So we're like, gosh, we're gonna hire this guy. There's no question we're gonna hire him. Ken, what do you know, a week later, we need to hire somebody in roll-to-roll, a manufacturing job again. Guess who we hired? Him. It was a quick and easy interview. We already knew who he was. We knew what he was about. And that's turning out, and I'm not even exaggerating, that's turning out to be the best hire that I've probably made. Because we started him in March, and so it's May now. His supervisor, who can be he can be difficult. His supervisor has very strict standards about how things are run, and it needs to be. In our line of work, there's very little tolerance for errors, mistakes, and so on. And he is incredibly high on this gentleman. He doesn't really know his history because it doesn't matter. He's there to work. He's not there to talk about what he did for 3 years prior to this. So we're already in our minds planning about how within the next year, when an opportunity opens up, he's going to be one of our leads. He's going back to college, by the way. He met with Kelly and I. Kelly's my manager of HR, to talk about his career history a little bit, what we're thinking about from an education standpoint. So he's now pursuing his degree in engineering. And he stopped by about 2 weeks ago to show us that he had been invited to one of the very prestigious National Honor Societies. This is a guy that was paroled in December. And this is how things have turned around for him. So again, raving reviews from his supervisor, who's not an easy guy to impress, all these other accomplishments. That's a second chance employee. So we're starting to see more of those. And whenever the agencies send those over, we talk to them. Above and beyond that, we're partnering with the Ohio Department of Rehabilitation and Corrections, ODRC, it's easier to say. And we're going to be sending work to them. So they're going to be doing some of our work at the prison. And guess what that allows me to do? These are all people that are getting trained. When they're released, guess who I'll be talking to for jobs? And guess what that cost me to do that? No, nothing. This time. Akron Urban League, we're starting to build a partnership with them. gentleman stopped by. We had him by, I think about a week and a half ago, to take a tour and see who we are and what we're about and talk about the opportunities and so on. So we're going to continue to expand upon that. Junior Achievement is another organization that we partnered with. We were part of their big event that they held down in Canton earlier this year to get some exposure, just the younger students, juniors and seniors and so on. But again, the cost of participation is all that is. And now I've got this wealth of candidates that I can talk to. And I've got colleges, universities, trade schools. Again, I'm not exaggerating or bragging. I've got too many lists. I can't list them all because I connect with them. Because those are where candidates are located. Guess what it costs me? Nothing. No. It doesn't cost me anything to make those connections. So far, with all of these connections I've made, I've spent $0 other than travel, which isn't very much. Did I say that? I had to make sure I had a slide. I just want to say it. Everything I listed has $0 cost. It does, because those options are out there. So here's the bad news or good news. It depends on your perspective. 70% of employed people are looking in 2024. Again, we could debate that figure. Hey, maybe 70%, maybe it's 30. Okay, there's a lot of people employed. So even if it's 30 that are looking, those are a lot of people that are out there waiting to make that connection with you. 95% planning to look in 2024. That's monster. Again, pretty good source. They've been around for a while. Again, we could debate that figure. Maybe it's 50%. Gosh, 50% of the people are looking for a new job. Okay, if something comes along. Here's the one that I like though. 30% are actively looking. 70% are passively looking. Obviously, that's 100%. So the reason why I like that, because my competition, which is very few, is in that 70%. Because most companies are going for that 30%. Well, I don't know about you, but the last I checked, 70 is bigger than 30. So I've got this bigger pool of candidates that I'm not going to have to really pay any money to reach, and they're passively looking. What that means is you put a little effort into it, they're probably going to come your direction. So very little competition in that 70%, I can assure you. Here's what I say is the good news from those. Top performers, they're not recognized. 50% of top performers are not recognized. Why is that important? Because sometimes people look at those figures and say, yeah, that's just the people that companies don't want. That's why they're looking. Not true. How many of you consider yourself a top performer? Don't raise your hand because it's everybody in this room. And how often have you or someone that you are aware of is that in that capacity and they're not getting the recognition they feel they deserve? Because oftentimes you get punished. Your top performers get more work, right? Because they're getting more work done, so they're going to get more. We're going to keep them busy. They're not getting as much training. Well, they don't need training. They're already good. I'm going to train the people that aren't good. Worst hours, yeah, because they're the best performer. You want them working the hours when you need them the most. Well, when you need them the most, typically is the worst hours. And they're called in. Hey, so-and-so didn't show up. We know we can count on you. And all the other things that happen to top performers. But none of it's good. None of it, no top performer, and I know we can all admit this, say, God, they really recognize me by giving me more hours, no training, you give me the worst hours, and calling me in when I thought I was just gonna have time with my family. God, I feel so valued by this company. I can assure you, no top performer ever said that, right? Because we're spending all our time on the worst performers. So keep in mind, we look at that 70%, those are top performers that you'd love to have in your organization. So I always say, always be recruiting. Give out your business card. Talk about your business. Talk about what you do. When someone asks, talk about it. Get them interested. Encourage a resume or even just an email. I tell people that all the time. You have a resume, send it to me. You don't? Okay, email me. I'm not kidding, and I'm not exaggerating. Do I have it on here? Somewhere in my mic. I get anywhere from 5 to 20 resumes in any given week. I didn't, I mean, some people I told, some I didn't. I forget who I told. Doesn't matter. So I'm going to talk to you a little bit about how you manage that. But that's where this stuff comes into fruition. Okay, get their information so you can follow up. You know, if you've got a pen and paper handy, or they give you a card or whatever it is, get their information. Here's the other one that we lose sight of: ask for referrals, because you know who are friends with top performers? Other top performers. Good people connect with good people. So they may not want to come work for you, but I bet you they know somebody that would like to. Again, I mentioned the young man. His brother, I know well, his brother's not interested in changing jobs. He loves the company he works with. He's got a great role. But his brother sure was, and that's a referral. And that's been a great hire for me. I consider it a great hire when you promote someone 3 times in a year. That's a pretty good hire. And this kid is. Here's the other thing that I think that we've talked about here today, but I want to say it directly. It's easier to recruit when you don't need someone. Is that not true? Because when you need someone, there's a hiring manager, hey, every day. I mean, even I get those. I'm flooding them with candidates. Hey, you have any more candidates for this? Is there anything going on with this? That's no fun. But and I love doing this, I do it frequently. When someone comes to me, which happened a couple of weeks ago, and said, you know what, we need another graphic designer. I left that meeting. I sent them an email with 15 people that were interested and qualified for that role. All they had to do was pick the person. And now we're going to interview a young man next week, and he's going to get the job. There's no doubt he's going to get the job. He sent over his portfolio. His background is hugely impressive. I never posted that job. And by the way, I want to throw this in too, just to make this point clear. So I've had about 7 or 8 jobs come open this year. I've posted 2 of them. 6 others I filled it just from the candidates that I've talked to, people I've talked to, up to and including temporary jobs. So don't let your temporary staffing firms tell you that you can't hire temporaries on your own. You can. You got to build that pool up, and they're out there. There are people out there that will take a temporary job. Typically younger people. Could be somebody that's stay-at-home mom. We hear about that group. Or somebody that's retired, they want to come in and work for. We got a gentleman who's doing that right now. He's working some part-time hours for us. He's retired, but picking up a little extra money. He likes the work environment, so he's coming in. So again, how much did it cost me to do that? No, 0 time. That's all. So managing this candidate flow, you're thinking, gosh, what are you doing here? How are you managing this? Well, you got to have your system set up because this will fall apart quickly. So I have email folders set up for each job grouping. So for me, it's typically IT intern, accounting, HR, whatever your job categories are, however it works for you. So I've got those set up. I also have separate ones that are just full-time, part-time. That's just someone that's looking for any opportunity. They don't fall in any category necessarily, but they'd be interested in more of an entry-level role. And temporary, I've got a whole folder of people that are my temporaries. You know who my temporaries are? You'll love this story. My temporaries are high school students also. I mentioned the group that's retired. I mentioned stay-at-home moms. College students, okay? Quick story about that. So right after Christmas, we got busy all of a sudden. It was right after Christmas, and we needed 6 people quickly. I had people in my back pocket again. They were college students, and they were high school students. Guess what they weren't doing over Christmas break? They weren't working, they weren't in school, they had free time. We had those kids come in, and they were thrilled to make $15 an hour over that Christmas break when they had no plans of making money. They all came in, they were great kids, they worked every day, they were there, they were quick about their work, happy to do it. And then, I love this too, when we wrap things up, I always follow up, say, hey, how it went, checking in on them while they're there. But the follow-up is, would you be interested in doing this again? Every one of them did, to the point that starting in April, I started getting messages from them saying, hey, don't forget me, if there's anything that comes over for the summer, I'm interested, I love working there, I'm gonna be back home. And these are kids from all over the state of Ohio. And they reached out to me, I didn't reach out to them, didn't need to. We've already made that connection. So that's how this stuff works. So here's the other thing, computer folders, same type of situations. Your job group is full-time, part-time, temporary. You've gotta have your templates. Again, I mentioned 5 to 20 emails. On top of everything else I've got going, it's a lot to keep up with. I have a template for every type of communication that I'm going to send. So then I'm just cutting and pasting it in, maybe I change a few words and I send it out. It's the only way this works. Okay? I've got one for now hiring. If I want to send something out to a group that said, hey, if you're ever interested, and I have a big folder of those. If you're ever interested, please let me know. Guess who gets those? Hey, we're hiring for this, let me know if you're interested. And then I'll check in too to say, are you still available? It's been a little while since I've talked to someone, I'll send that template out. Hey, I know it's been a while since we talked, just want to make sure that you're still available if you need somebody. And then I'll send the please complete application. Because the other thing is I want to cut to the chase. Some of these, opportunities, I need somebody immediately. So I need an application already on file, so we're not taking up half the morning getting all the, the necessities out of the way before we can put them to work. Right? So regular complete communication with agencies. I do a lot of that. That's important to me. You guys know that. We check in with each other. I see you someplace. We touch base and so on. You do a great job of reaching out to me too, just to say, hey, we're still out here if you need anything. So we've got that dynamic going as well because we know we're serving each other's needs and what we need to accomplish. But that's the way this works. You've got to put some effort into it. Again, this isn't any cost. This is my time. My time has value. We're going to be spending time either way. We're not spending money. Here's a key point about recruiting, though, that I think we lose sight of. It's easier to keep a top performer than to replace them. It really is. And my experience tells me that it's really not that difficult to keep your top performers. It's about checking in with them. Hey, how you doing? Just seeing if we're meeting their needs. And typically their needs aren't anything great. We need to watch their salaries to make sure we're tracking good on that. So that takes a little bit of work, but not a lot. And again, you make such an impression on that person if you check their salary and say, gosh, they're probably about $1 an hour behind where they should be. And you tell that person, Patricia, hey, you got some time? Hey, just want to meet with you. Everything's good, but we checked your salary and you're probably $1 an hour below where you should be. Right? Yeah. She's like, wow, about time you noticed. But she's going to leave that meeting like, they must really care about me because I didn't ask for a raise. I sure would like it. Like I've never had anybody in that discussion, and I know Patricia's not going to do this, to say, I'm good. I don't need the extra money. But they sure are smiling and happy. I've never had anybody leave a meeting like that unhappy. So put that effort into keeping your top performers because that little bit of effort is still a lot easier than everything I've described here. And that meeting with Patricia that's 10 or 15 minutes, even just to check in. Hey, is there anything we can do for you? We haven't talked in a while. Is there some training that you'd like to go to? We've got the budget. It's a little bit of time. So be sure, that's what I said, be sure you're taking care of your top performers. Give them recognition. Don't punish them. We talked about what punish looks like. Watch their pay. We talked about that because we want them at the top of the pay, right? Top performers should get top pay. But companies lose sight of that. They bring in new people. Here's the top performer. They bring in new people. Here's the market. It's here. And then here's this poor soul who's your best performer that's making 20% less than what your new hire made. And again, don't think they don't talk about their pay. I guarantee you they do. And when that top performer finds out that somebody that just got hired is making more, here's what they don't say. I'm motivated now. Boy, I'm going to keep, this is really paying off for me to be the top performer here. Nobody ever said that. There it is. It's less expensive. It is. I'm going to give you the date on that. I live it. It's less expensive for me to give a top performer $1 an hour raise than to put the time into recruiting, interviewing, and all that. Even just think about what time your organization spends for a 1-hour interview. You got 3 people in that interview. It's whatever that pay is times 3 for that hour. It adds up quick. Here's the bottom line. And this isn't bragging. I want to make sure that you understand I walk the walk. I have a database with hundreds of interested job candidates. I do. I can show it to you. I won't, but I can show it to you. I do receive 3 to 10 unsolicited resumes in any given week. Right now, it's been running 5. It just has. People regularly reach out to me about jobs. They do. I spoke with a young lady this morning. She's a high school graduate. She just graduated from Ravenna High School. I met her at a career fair. She reached out to me and said, Mr. Smith, I don't know if you remember me, but I was so impressed with the conversation we had and so on. Would you have time to catch up? And we did this morning at 8:30. Those happen for me frequently. So I'm not even reaching out. I've made an impression. They're interested. They're sold. Here it again. My cost is the time. What questions do you have? And there's all of my contact information if you would like to reach out. Again, this is my contact information through my business. But my day job, as I describe it, is Director of HR at Kent Displays. A lot of the things that I've spoken to today relate more to that work. In my consulting work and that, I work with organizations to improve their hiring practices. Okay. What questions do you have?
So, just out of curiosity, my daughter just graduated from Ravenna, actually yesterday as well. She's in the job hunt right now. Is that something that she could connect with you as well?
Please send her my way.
Okay.
Here's the other thing I'll do, because I'm kind of a sucker for this. When I see a bad resume, I'm also going to say, what's your daughter's name?
Lily.
I'll say, Lily, for one, we're going to stay connected, Lily. I always joke, hey, once we're connected, you're kind of stuck with me, which is kind of true. You are, because I want to see you working. But if I looked at her resume and I said, there could be some improvements. Lily, you need to improve your resume. And as proof of that, because I think there's always proof in the pudding, I have a young lady that falls into that category right now. Here she is. It's Miranda. And Miranda reached out to me. She was looking for a graphic design job. And her resume was not good. And in a very polite way, I said, Miranda, your resume is not very good, but if you send it to me, I'll update it. And I sent her a template, and here's Miranda's resume, sent back to me with my suggested changes. So that's a long story. Ryan, to your question, the short answer is yes. You refer her to me, I guarantee I'll talk with her. Because the other thing I'm going to do is check that resume. If I don't have anything immediately open, you know what else I'm going to do? Who does? And I refer candidates all the time. I referred a gentleman who applied to our controller job. That was one of the jobs I posted this year. Who was our second choice. I just referred him to someone that I know has a controller job. I'll do that too. I love doing that. If you follow me on LinkedIn, you'll see I do that stuff a lot. And I share jobs that I see too.
So I know that I missed like the first part of this, but as far
Which was
as.
the best part.
Yeah, of course,
Yeah.
of course. I've gotten a tornado. Yeah.
We can catch us some slack then.
Yeah. But as far as that's concerned, like, so is that through Kent Displays you're also
Yeah.
doing this, or is this
No.
in addition?
What I do as far as the hiring, recruiting, and all that talent acquisition is all through Kent Displays.
Okay.
So my private company right now is just me, and I've got a couple of people that are I-9 or 1099. I'm sorry, that for me.
And then you don't charge anything for that. So how do you?
Because I have the thought that it's never no, it's just not right now. And I have a story with that, imagine that. So I have a lady that I met many years ago. And salesperson, she was bilingual, she lived in Texas. We didn't end up filling the role, if I remember correctly, in that company. But we stayed in contact. And you know the young lady I talked about, she sent me the Oreo gift back years ago. So 7 years later from initial meeting, I hired her for another sales job in another company. True story. Again, in that period of time, she's got married, she has 2 kids. She sent that t-shirt that doesn't fit me that you ended up getting. So that's what this can look like. So for one, I think it's that. The other thing though, I just think it's the right thing to do.
Yeah, that's good.
I don't know. I have a theory that you get what you give to the world. And, you know, I've never felt like I lost in that equation. Like, oh my, you helped the person with the resume, you helped them find a job, you did this. I've never felt like, oh geez, boy, that was a bad deal for me. It just never played out that way. Because I'm getting 3 to 10 unsolicited resumes in any given week, and 6 of my 8 jobs I didn't post this year.
Yeah, that's awesome.
Yeah.
We're good. We need more good human beings.
Yeah, just trying to do my part.
Yeah, that's good. That's very good.
I would say, I think that you seem rare in this.
I would say so too.
Yeah.
Yeah, very professionally correct.
It's very rare and quite a gem for your company because it seems, I mean, you know, I'm older and my history of, yeah, I'm a lot older. And so my history of jobs and things has been in networking and getting to know, and then they know you, and then they have an opening, and
Yep.
you're like, I know someone. But it doesn't seem like it in this day and age
Yes.
with the young people coming up. It's all applied to this online
Yep.
platform, but
Exactly.
they will, then you immediately get like a ding.
Yeah.
And they don't want you, and you think, hey, I was qualified and I met these, but they don't like my resume, and it's an instant no. So how do young people kind of navigate, and then obviously it's
Yeah.
getting to know people, putting yourself out there, you know, and doing all of those things, but I feel like it's not necessarily being taught these days.
It's not.
With young people,
No.
or any person now, it just seems like it's go to online,
Yeah.
apply to Indeed, apply to, you
Yeah.
know.
It's in a black hole. Yeah.
There's no
And then you
face
just
to
get
face,
all
like
these
there's,
Yeah.
it gets you to that face to face, like you get, like, I mean, back in my day, like, you could literally go into,
Yeah.
And you
Yeah.
did.
And they got to meet you,
yeah,
really
and
see
face
you.
to face,
Yeah.
Yep.
and so, yeah, but I do have to say, though, with my daughter, you have to let me know how you like her resume. I was extremely impressed with the way that she wrote. I made some edits. I didn't want to completely change it because,
Yep.
you know.
It's gotta be hers.
Right.
Yep.
But, she's done great, and she's got, like, she put it out on Indeed and applied for a couple different positions, and she's got, I think, like 4 things in her.
Wow.
So so I'm very, very proud of that, but.
So the apple doesn't fall far from the tree, is what we've established here.
I don't know,
Yeah.
but, yeah, thank you. But yeah, I mean, I would definitely like to know, like, you know, that's not my expertise, is resume writing. I know me.
Right. Here's the thing, and I tell this to my son. My son's 18, we talked about that. He just graduated as well. So he's out on LinkedIn. I made sure he established a LinkedIn profile. He's got 300 connections and growing. He's a guy, and again, he's an extrovert. I'm more of an introvert, he's an extrovert. You know that. He has no problem going into a business that he likes and talking to people. He does that all the time. So he's networking. He's a networker. He knows how to do that. It's amazing. Sometimes he'll tell me the people he's met at this business, and then he goes back and visits them, and has a conversation and does all these things. So you can do it. It requires extra effort. Some of the big companies you can't, but you know where the big companies always are? Job fairs and career fairs, and those cost zero money.
Yeah.
And I always say, don't worry about, they only have these jobs listed. Still go there. You're going to catch someone's attention. And you hope that they say, wow, that kid really impressed me. I'm going to hold on to that resume. So it's possible, but it does look drastically different. It'd be very unusual now to walk into Goodyear and just say, hey, I'm here to apply for a job. You're just not going to do that. You can still do it with the small businesses. Like I say, my son goes to the mall and he goes into those businesses and he talks, tries to find out who the owner is and does that. But there's still ways to catch the people. But again, you've got to plug into what the hand you're dealt, in other words. But what you guys spoke to is exactly why, one of the main reasons I wrote that book, because I think we've gotten lost in the technology. Like you said, you apply for a job, boom, it already just queued me. How did it do that? Because it has a logarithm that it didn't see in your resume. So part of what I do too is I work with people to say, do you have the right keywords in there? Is it picking up all the things that we're looking for? So we talk about that a lot. And again, quick advice on that, always share terms that are, unique to your industry or your job group. So if it's engineering, make sure you're talking about the software and so on that you use. Use measurables. Don't just say, you led a group where I supervise. How many people? Really try to get into the specifics. Make sure it's definitely specific to that organization. And how do you do that? You build your resume and your cover letter side by side with the job posting. Because part of what the logarithm is built on is the job posting. So if it goes through and it, and again, you'll appreciate this, and probably explain it better than I could, being the technology guy, but what it's doing is it's programmed to look for certain terms. And if it has so many misses, well, this person's not a match.
It's just so bizarre.
Oh, I agree.
So bizarre that we are at that stage.
Agreed.
In the world where it's up to.
No, you're all good. It took me a while to get a job too. Until I found this book.
You're masterful at your job still, yeah.
Thank you. Thank you.
But that's, again, the next book I talk about, that's what I talk about. How to get past those things, how to have that job posting there and build your resume. Resumes have to be more specific now. You can't make one generic resume and I'm just gonna blast it to the world and hope it has a hit. That's the equivalent of me throwing something against the wall and hope it sticks.
So it's more so for whatever job, if you're applying for multiple different types of positions,
Yep.
It needs to be specific to that specific position.
Absolutely, yep. Because again, the computer is looking for matches. Do we like it? No. Is it the reality? Yeah, in a lot of cases. I appreciate your sentiments about saying that I'm unique. I take pride in that because that's also my competitive edge.
For sure. Yeah.
People like the attention that I give them. And all it takes is my time because I know they're not going to get that attention from most other employers. And when I tell them that I'm going to keep them in my back pocket and I'm going to put them into another position, I do. Because remember the young man that I moved from technical customer service to the manufacturing? The young lady I hired fell into that same category. I connected with her several months ago in some sort of a job fair. Very impressed with her. Again, didn't have a job opening that she was looking for. She couldn't do multiple shifts. She had some limitations as far as what she could do. Guess who is that young man's replacement as our technical customer service rep? That young lady. And she has a bright future with us. To me, this is her first step. She will move up. She's smart, she's driven, but she worked for an employer that didn't appreciate her. And that's boy, when that happens, I'm looking at my chops. It's like, okay, I can do this all day. So again, people appreciate attention.
Yeah.
Other questions? Good discussion, by the way, thank you. If anybody listening, you've got my contact information there, so feel free to reach out. I love talking about this stuff, and I will make time. Please know that. Otherwise, thank you very much for having me.
That's awesome. Thank you very much. That was very informative and yeah, definitely a gem. So yeah, thank you, Tiffany. Please feel free to go grab something to eat.